and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Hi, it's Karen here. Welcome back to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. And I'm flying solo today. I don't have Richard here on my tag team. So I know he's really a lot more funny than what I am, but please don't switch off, because this last weekend we actually went to a golf tournament over at Gladstone with some friends, and I kind of probably did indulge in a little bit of too much wine on Saturday night, and it wasn't my fault. My friend kept topping my glass up when I wasn't watching, and I did say on Sunday morning that their life would be so boring without me, and that I'm entertainment in a can. And I was corrected, saying apparently I'm entertainment in a bottle. So yeah, but it was a fun weekend, and what could be better? It was sunny, and we were playing golf and with friends. So I'm talking of friends. Today, going on our theme of podcast, we're going to be doing some interviews, and I've got my amazing friend Jessica LoRusso here today. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, Karen. Thank you for having me.
No, it was our pleasure. And Richard was so sorry that he couldn't be here to probably
He probably got scared. I scared him off.
Well, he did say that you came late just because you didn't want to bump into him.
That's true.
So Jessica is going to be, we did mention about Jessica last week in our podcast, and myself and Jessica have collaborated on a program. We will talk about that in a little while, but I just want to kind of give you a background on what Jessica does. Jessica's a civility expert, and she's also brought out a book called
Be Believable.
Be Believable.
How to build a credible business. Okay. That entrepreneurs can build a credible business that people can trust.
Perfect. So we need trust in our lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you want to just give us a little bit of background on either the book first or your civility training and what you do?
Okay, so why don't we talk about me first, because, it's so lovely.
Yes, yeah, because you're an amazing person.
Absolutely. So again, Jessica LoRusso. I owned a couple businesses, Powered by Jessica and Powered Profit, where I get to help entrepreneurs and professionals be the best they can be. Ultimately, I want them to make money, make profit, because there's a difference between making money and making profit. Yeah. We can make lots of money, but as entrepreneurs and professionals, we know that our expenses can get the hold of us, and there's more month than money. So a lot of people end up being in trouble because they just don't know how to handle, I don't want to say handle their money, but there are ways that you can make profit without the sacrifice that people think that they have to make, like avoiding their coffee. There are people like Starbucks. I just came back from Vancouver, and Starbucks is it. And here it's Tim's. So there it's, you can still buy your coffee. You can still buy your stuff that you want to buy, but you don't have to sacrifice. You just have to work differently. And that's what I do, is teach a lot of entrepreneurs to do that.
I know. And I can't believe how much Starbucks charges for coffees. I mean, I had one girl a couple of years ago when I got my studio, and she says, I can't afford your fitness classes. It's $10 a class. And then she went to Starbucks and spent $8 on a coffee. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So you can afford and in all honesty, that Starbucks coffee, unless you're having black coffee, but you're having some kind of exotic drink, if I can say that has calories galore, carbs galore, and sugar galore,
sure.
and so really all the work that you're doing in your exercise classes and your coaching is you stop drinking the Starbucks crazy drinks. Drink coffee. That's what you're there for.
Invest it in me instead.
Exactly.
Or invest it in yourself, because if you're spending money on your own health and fitness, you're investing in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, like I say, you help people to invest in their business, but on different levels.
Exactly. And that's the important thing. My specialty is behavior. I help people change their behaviors so that regardless if it's for them personally or professionally, whereas you are looking after their nutrition. And of course, as you'll find out in our conversation, they work hand in hand, because if your body is not well looked after, then your mind can't function properly. And that's where the behavior comes in.
Oh, I know. And like yesterday, I had a really long day. Started at 5 o'clock. I ran 3 boot camps back to back. Then I went and did a cooking demo for a corporate client in the city. And then I went over to another corporate client and did 6 emotional, mental health and wellness like coaching sessions with their employees. And my day finished like nearly 9 o'clock, and I'm driving home, and I was just saying to Jessica that our brain takes up 2% of our body weight, or 2% of our body, but it takes 20% of our calories to actually function. So remember, like when you come out of an exam at school and you're exhausted, then that's why, because that mental exhaustion makes you physically exhausted. And it really does affect your behavior, because when you're exhausted mentally and physically, and there's a double whammy, then when I got home, I was just like brain fog. I didn't want to have a conversation. I was just like, no, don't talk to me.
Exactly. And for most of us, the majority of working people, we are employed in thinking jobs.
Yeah.
Whereas the physical labor, we don't see that as much as we used to, but we more than often are working thinking. And if you can just take a moment to think about that, you spend the majority of your work time thinking about problem solving, thinking about negotiating, thinking about how you're going to improve on something. And if you're saying that, and of course I know it's true, that you're using all this brain power and all this calories to fuel your brain, then you've got to look at how you're doing things differently. And this is where Karen and I come together to help you do that, so that you can walk into your day or start your morning, your afternoon, your evening, all on the same playing field instead of being exhausted at the end of the day.
Exactly. And I did say last week that, and obviously in the intro, that me and Jessica have like collaborated on a joint program. And a lot of people are thinking like, well, how can a civility and behavioral expert and a health and wellness coach like collaborate? How can like a program come together? And we've known each other for, a long time.
I know, eh?
Yeah.
What? It's like when they ask you at the passport office, how long have you known this person? You kind of like, I don't know. Am I going to get in trouble? Give her a passport. But we've known each other for a long time. We even met even before women's business owners.
Yeah.
10 years or more.
Yeah.
So if you want a number, it's 12 years. We'll say it's 12 years.
10, 12 years. Yeah, 12 sounds good. I don't know, like, I think that we knew even then, we hit it off we knew that there was a connection there. And at some point down the road that we probably would end up like collaborating and working together. But like I say, it's been 12 years kind of in the making. But like I say, we've both gone in our own directions. And you used to run Zealous Medi Spa.
So I had a couple spas here in the city. And I think what I like to do is I build a spa. I find a niche idea, because that's what I teach, is play in your own sandbox. Figure out your own niche.
I like that.
Yep, play in your own sandbox. And then figure out what your target market and how you're going to serve your particular people. Whether if you're serving an employer, that's great. Because remember, you're the CEO of you.
Yeah.
And regardless if you're employed or a business owner, you've got to be responsible for you. And what was the question now that I'm thinking about all this other stuff?
I mentioned that you started Zealous Medi Spa.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the spa. So The first spa was a spa salon. Now, the Zealous Medi Spa was a neat idea before anybody was doing it. And it was non-surgical medical skincare and body care. Yes. And I was one of the first ones to bring it to market. Now you're starting to see estheticians bringing it in slowly but surely, but we were one of the first ones. So I had that business in 2004, had moved it to different areas. The last location is on Provencher, still is.
Yeah.
And now someone else owns it. So I tend to build up a business. Someone told me that I was a pioneer. I start something, I make it work, and then I let someone take it over from there. And now I always developing new things. And I think I like doing that because I want to learn and try and do and succeed, and I want to make it happen.
Yeah, we should always be learning. If we stop learning, then
you're stuck. You're a shark in the water. You die, right?
And so what me and Jessica did, like, my specialty is in addressing the psychosocial health in the workplace. So it's not the psychological health, but it does actually have an impact on the psychological health and the physical health of the employees. And psychosocial hazards in the workplace actually affect the mental health and the mental well-being of the employees. And psychosocial hazards in the workplace are actually costing employers, fatigue alone is probably along the top number one psychosocial hazards, and is costing employers Canadian employers, that is, 330 million a year in lost productivity. And that's probably a statistic from a couple of years ago, and it's probably like way in excess of that now. And also disrespectful behavior is there alongside fatigue as being a psychosocial hazard. They're the two main psychosocial hazards in the workplace. And when somebody's disrespectful to you, and again, we're going to get Jessica to talk about disrespectful behavior in the workplace, but if somebody's disrespectful to you in the workplace, it can actually elevate your cortisol levels for up to 4 hours. And we've already touched on cortisol, the stress hormone, in previous podcasts. So you're probably aware and you already understand what cortisol is and how it can negatively impact the body. So when your cortisol levels are high and they remain high over a long period of time or even a short period of time, then it can develop into subclinical and chronic diseases. And going back to if somebody's disrespectful to you in the workplace, say that you're working in a workplace and you don't like somebody, whether it's your boss or a work colleague, and they're always rude to you, they bully you, they harass you, your cortisol levels will go up for up to 4 hours. Well, even if you don't see that person again the rest of the day, even if the mention of their name can still elevate that cortisol even higher. So your cortisol levels remain high just consistently throughout your workday. And if this happens every single day, and most people, I was reading on LinkedIn the other day, says like people don't leave jobs, they leave employers.
Yes.
They leave people because they don't want to work in that environment. And that's where Jessica comes on with the behavioral aspect of workplace behavior and disrespectful behavior. And disrespectful behavior, like say, impacts our cortisol levels, and cortisol can develop into chronic disease like cancer, hypertension, heart disease, develop and exaggerate like obesity-related diseases. It can develop into type 2 diabetes. And depression is huge. Like disrespectful behavior and the impact on cortisol can affect your anxiety levels, your emotions, and lead to depression. And so that's where me and Jessica came together, because we saw a unique opportunity that, hey, this is so closely connected and nobody else does this. And it's like, we've like formulated this program that we can go into your workplace and help with the behavior, because behavior is key in the workplace, and it'll also help tackle chronic disease.
Okay. So thank you. Very good.
Rewind the podcast so you can listen to it again.
No. Yeah. Okay. So Karen, in the year 2020, depression is going to be the number one disease, if I can say that.
Yeah, it is.
Like right now we have stress, which equates to about 90% of hospital visits. Well, depression is going to outweigh that as being the number one hospital visit that send people. And that's because of stress. Now, why is stress happening? Well, it's because people are being disrespectful, rude.
Yeah.
And when I talk about rudeness can be something from an eye roll.
Yeah.
Oh, you said something. Oh, I don't want to listen to you. And they roll their eyes.
Body language.
Anything up to someone punching someone in the nose. If that's, we think that's funny, but violence. So
it does happen.
You can have this rudeness scale that goes from just an eye roll, it's low risk rudeness, to up to high risk rudeness where it's unconscionable behavior, from theft to someone sabotaging you or tripping you because the rudeness has gotten so bad that it is unbearable. And sometimes I watch this program called Fear Thy Neighbor, where
somebody told me about that the other day. I've never seen it.
It's the same story over and over again, where you have a neighbor. For example, this is about neighbors, but you have a neighbor who's felt slighted somehow, and there wasn't a repair, meaning someone didn't apologize or repair the behavior. Well, I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to do something. I'm going to get back to you. And at the end of this program, either someone dies or someone goes to jail or something terrible happens, right? Because it's TV drama.
I'm going to have to watch this.
But when you talk about the workplace, and I'm going to get some statistics out from Christine Parath and Christine Pearson that really documents what actually happens in the workplace. But I can tell you, one of the biggest things that people do is they will sabotage each other. Maybe they won't give you that phone message that you needed to make to close that sale.
Yeah.
Maybe they will write something nasty on the wall that everybody laughs at you about, or maybe they'll move your things so you can't get to work fast enough. These are all simple things, but over time, you can see where it causes that little low risk impact causes stress, which causes, the physical, psychosocial hazards that happen.
It increases your cortisol levels and like that stress response and like you say, that continual chronic level of raised cortisol is where those subclinical and chronic diseases come from. Employers' health insurance costs go up, and like when it comes to stress, I put a short little post on my LinkedIn the other day saying there's a lot of people out there that promote that they help you to manage your stress levels, but I think that like what me and Jessica are trying to do is to be proactive and like, what's causing the stress in the first place? Let's try and stop it from happening so that you don't have to manage the stress. Because when you're already in a stress response, you do have to do something about it and you do have to manage it. But let's be proactive and let's try and look at preventing the stress in the first place if we can.
Well, even with stress, if someone either is the victim of or witnesses the event, it causes the same reaction.
The same physiological responses can be affect the same two separate people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a coworker being rude, not even saying good morning. Let's do something so simple. Now, if a coworker,
and that happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. But not even saying good morning. Now, with that, you need at least 7 positive behaviors to cancel out that negative behavior.
Wow.
So you can see where, and there's a stat that over 49% of millennials expect to experience rudeness in the next 24 hours.
So they expect it.
Yeah. So it's sad that they're actually expecting to be rude.
Wow.
And if you are being, or if you're witnessing being rude or being the victim being rude, you're going to react in kind.
Exactly, yeah.
So it just is a cycle of rudeness. But I wanted to grab some stats from the Pearson Parath ladies that did a report on rudeness and the impact to a workplace.
Wow.
And we're going to talk about bottom line when it comes to money.
Yeah.
So, and this is why it's so important for workplaces to make sure that they have a civility initiative.
Yes.
And a wellness initiative, and this is where you come in their business. So when we look at it, we go, among workers who've been on the receiving end of incivility, 48% intentionally decrease their work effort.
Intentionally decrease it?
Yes. So half the time I'm not going to do my job.
Wow.
That I'm paid for. So Where's that money going? 47% intentionally decrease their time spent at work. And this is where earlier you had said, well, they're going to avoid the offender.
Yeah.
So they might not come to work.
Yeah.
Or when the person or Jack's walking down the hallway, I'm going to run to the bathroom, or I'm going to run to the copy room. I'm not going to be at work, or I'm not going to be at my desk doing my work. 38% intentionally decrease their quality of work.
Yeah.
So I'm being treated badly, so why should I even try?
And so they're just doing the bare minimum just to get through the day and go, well, I'm not going to go above and beyond the call of duty.
Or not even get up to the call of duty.
Yeah.
80% lost work time worrying about it. So they're thinking about it. They're not concentrating on their jobs. They're thinking about that incident, whether it was just a rude comment or someone's actually picking on them, bullying them, or someone took their stuff. So they're not concentrating on their job at all.
Yeah.
63% lost time avoiding the offender, which I talked about. 66% said that their performance declined. Again, I'm not going to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
78% said that their commitment to the organization declined. And this is where loyalty comes in.
Yes.
So they have one foot in the door, one foot out of the door. And this is where they're using your company computer to find a new job. I see it all the time. 12% said that they left their job because of uncivil treatment. 25% admitted taking out their frustrations on customers.
Wow.
That's only admitted.
Yes.
But if you're treated badly,
yes.
how are you going to react to people around you? Remember what I said earlier, you're going to treat people in kind. So if you're being treated rudely, you're going to treat other people rudely.
Yeah, it's like that domino knock-on effect. And like you've said to me before about retention in the workplace, like the stats that you just read out. And as I said, people leave people, not jobs. And you just hit the nail on the head that they've got one foot in the door, one foot out the door, and they're not committed. And then they probably may have a few sniffles and think, I don't really want to experience and deal with that person today. I'm just going to phone in sick. And so employers' healthcare spending and costs just go up and up and up. Productivity goes down. And you mentioned about bottom line and about money.
So North America's stat is $300 to $350 billion are spent because of lost productivity, healthcare costs, because you're automatically, or the stress, the weight. And when you talk about cortisol, that's a physical, hormone that's going through your body. You've got to go to the doctor and you've got to manage it.
Yeah.
So the important thing for us is to help people, individuals, help companies, help a community with providing them with solutions so that they don't have to go through all this stress, all this hardship, and be happy.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about happiness. No one's happy.
I know. Yeah, people are. I'm happy.
Yes, well.
I'm tired today, but I'm happy.
She's not. She's fabulous.
But again, like Richard and I, when we were like presenting, and like Jessica's like heard me discuss this before, that, I mean, and as you said earlier, there's a lot of information jobs out there. We have to concentrate, and it makes us physically exhausted as well as mentally exhausted. But there's a lot of sedentary jobs out there, and disrespectful behavior, as I've said, can elevate your cortisol levels. And those elevated levels of cortisol over a long period of time and at chronic levels can actually develop into musculoskeletal diseases and aches and pains. And with so many sedentary jobs nowadays, the job is doing that. And call centers, I don't know, people might be listening and go like, I work in a call center and I'm happy. But to me, they can't be the most exciting environments to live in, because all you're doing is dealing with usually annoyed people on the other end of the phone. And that has an impact on you and your physiological response to that negative behavior from somebody on the other end of the phone, that disrespectful behavior from somebody that's usually phoned you up because you've charged my credit card this, oh, you've not done this, and so you're not even having a face-to-face contact. So,
well, how about, there's two things when you're talking about, sales. Even a salesperson, and most of us are in sales.
We are,
in one way or another. But even when you're asking for something and the person doesn't even give you the time of day, a simple no thank you, I don't want it is a perfectly good response.
Yes.
But if you're on the phone, people go, shut up, don't call me here, click.
Yeah.
Well, number one, you're exhibiting that kind of behavior. That actually causes your cortisol to go up, since we're talking about cortisol. So your stress goes up because of that, because you're getting mad.
Yeah.
And where you could have said, I'm sorry, I don't want it. Thank you so much for your time. And then, thank you, have a great day, bye. And you can hang up, which is totally, try it. Try to be nice.
Yes.
Like, just be polite to a call person and see the difference in the way that you feel and the way that you talk. You're going to see a big difference. But also, even when you go on a sales call and you're presenting your beautiful, whatever it is, your beautiful music box, if that's what we're selling today, and you present this, and the gentleman or the lady is like, shut up, or you don't have to be rude.
No.
You do not have to be rude, because you're really hurting yourself when you are rude or incivil. I've had one time where I was presenting something, we're sitting down, and the gentleman just got up and left.
Wow.
Like that, talk about rude, right? He just got up and left. So, are you coming back? Do I sit here? What do I? It was in his business as well. So you can see how you react to people, how it's hurting you, even when you're rude, when you're the bully, when you're the ignorant blank, blank, blank,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So you can see that you're actually hurting yourself when you're acting like that.
Oh, yeah. And like you say, disrespectful behavior from the physiological response. I've just got a few stats of my own that it was actually people who are exposed versus not exposed to disrespectful behavior. And I'll just use like the simple numbers. So people who were exposed to disrespectful behavior, their irritability levels marked 40, whereas if they weren't exposed to disrespectful behavior, it only ranked at 7.5. And interestingly enough, like those who were exposed to disrespectful behavior, their gut health was at a 20 points, whereas people who didn't weren't exposed to disrespectful behavior, their gut health was only at 5. So there's so much to factor into how disrespectful behavior can actually affect you on so many other levels. Those exposed to disrespectful behavior, their anxiety levels were at 27, whereas those that weren't exposed, their anxiety levels were at 6. And then the last one, which I teach a lot on shift work and sleep deprivation, and those exposed to disrespectful behavior, their sleep patterns were disrupted to a marker of 30, whereas those that didn't have were exposed to disrespectful behavior, it was only at a marker of 7. So there's huge differences, and they're all physiological and physical effects on the body and health impacts. And people who are irritable, poor gut health, not sleeping properly, as an employer, your healthcare spending is going to go through the roof.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And like you say, people leave, they don't go to work, and it's just a knock-on effect.
But, okay, so if they leave, you think that's great? What about the people who stay?
Exactly.
They are actually costing you more money. But the big problem is all this stress they're actually taking home to their families.
Yes.
And fighting with their spouses or treating their spouses rudely. And then their spouses are taking that to work or the people that they're connecting with.
Yeah.
So it's just creating a very, very unhealthy environment. And having a unhealthy environment costs you money.
It does.
And it costs you other things as well, because even if you're trying to, as an entrepreneur, say you're creating this beautiful company, but if you are stressed out, if you are the victim or you're actually the bully or you're being uncivil, your creativity, so when we thought, who cares about creativity? Your capacity to think, your capacity to come up with ideas, your capacity to negotiate, which is a very important skill for a professional, your capacity to make positive decisions for you, and right decisions for you, your capacity to come up with a new idea, which is so important for professionals, to come up with this amazing thing that's going to make us loads of money. Yay! that's reduced by 50% and more, but we're going to start at 50%.
Yeah.
So you're just a shell of a person.
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing to say, and I hate saying it, but there's lots of people who are walking around with this hurried sickness. Yeah. You hear it. I'm busy. What are you doing? I'm so busy. I'm busy. Yeah. I'm busy. And say something else than busy. Say you're productive. Say what you're doing. Like say something positive instead of I'm busy.
I don't know. I worked years ago in the UK with this woman, and she just was one of those ones that said like, oh, I'm just like so busy. I've just got so much work to do. And usually I found that those people were the ones that actually weren't that busy.
No, they're not. And they're just saying it.
Yeah, and she wasn't in particular. I had a job, and it really wasn't a full-time job, and I was bored, and I actually did leave that job because I was bored and I wasn't challenging my brain. And like, I got this lady saying, oh, I'm so busy. And I'd say, well, give me some of your work. And she'd always refuse because she hadn't really got that much work to do.
Right.
But she was always like flapping and like, oh, she was just always stressed. And then that has that knock-on effect as well. And one job that I had here, I used to work, before I was like obviously a business owner, and I, as Richard and I say, worked in a real job. I worked in this office, and there was probably 6 or 7 of us in it, but there was this one girl, and she did nothing but complain.
Oh, no.
All day for 8 hours. So it took myself and Richard 25 minutes to drive back home at the end of the day. And so after I picked him up, it took me until I walked through the door, that 25 minutes to shake off that like negativity. And even one of the store owners in our community here, I was talking to her and I bought something, and she says, oh, that woman that was in front of you. I says, oh, I didn't really notice. Who is she? And she said, oh my goodness, like she's so negative, so disrespectful. And she almost makes me like sick on a physiological level because she's so negative and disrespectful, and people really don't realize just how that affects their health and wellness, again affecting their cortisol levels. So people who are disrespectful are making other people sick.
Yep.
And it's costing employers, sometimes the employees, because they leave, and then it's costing you, I shouldn't say, like, I shouldn't swear, a ton of money. A ton of money. I have to make sure, because obviously if we're on iTunes and I say something like that, like...
you just go beat.
Your rankings, yeah.
So it costs, on average, $30,000 to onboard, meaning hire someone and get them started, and the time for them to learn the job, because sometimes it might take up to 6 months to get someone ready
up to speed,
work. And there's your $30,000 gone. So when people leave, just think, as a professional, if you're dealing with people, or the entrepreneur, or the CEO of whatever, it's $30,000 leaving the door
for each person.
See ya, bye. And if litigation happens, it can cost up to over $100,000 for things. And on the news this morning on CBC, the RCMP is going to be paying out $1.5 billion because of they can't control their harassment, their bullying.
Wow.
In their organization. So when we talk about money, there you go.
And when it comes to money, I don't think employers are aware of just how big the financial impact is. And we've covered quite a lot on this podcast, and I think this will be a good place to stop, as there's a lot of information that everybody's got to digest. And we'll pick things up back on the next podcast when we will kind of look at ways and strategies on how we can tackle some of the issues that we've discussed today. So we will come back to you in a few days' time. That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.